Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
This is a special meeting of the City Council of the City of Orange Township to conduct a workshop on the calendar year 2025 budget in the council chambers, City Hall, 29 North Day Street, Orange, New Jersey, Monday, July 7th, 2025 at 7:06 p.m. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. And we get Councilwoman Hilbert to lead us in prayers.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call. Councilmember Coley,
Present.
Councilmember Eason,
Here.
Councilmember Hilbert,
present.
Councilmember Montague III,
Present.
Councilmember Ross,
Here.
Councilmember Summers Johnson,
Here.
Council President Wooten. Also present is Joyce Lanier, City Clerk, Chris M. Hartwick, the Business Administrator, Now Clements, the CFO, Gracia Montillas, City Attorney, Marlon G. Towns, Legislative Research Officer, and Tricia Scipio from the Clerk's Office. The requirements of NJSA 10:4-9 et sec. The Sunshine Law has been met. A notice of this meeting was sent to the record transcript and published in the Star Ledger on July 4th, 2025, posted on the website, the city's website, the council's website, and filed in the office of the city clerk. The purpose of this meeting is the calendar year 2025 budget workshop. Members of the public wishing to address the council may do so.
Point of
During-
order. Did we do the moment of silence?
I thought we did, didn't we?
No.
No? Oh. Okay.
I guess a whole bag full of them.
We did. We didn't? Oh, okay.
Council President.
Because I was gonna ask that we dedicate it to North Plainfield and Texas. The devastation in Texas, that we all say a prayer for the families and the people that are still missing.
Yeah, it's the same.
Scataway you might as well add the whole
United States.
well, no, because it was Plainfield, Piscataway, South, it was that whole, yeah, I got family all over there, trees all over there. It was the whole, Plainfield got it bad, but Piscataway. got it
North
too.
Plainfield, yeah.
So a moment of silence.
We're having a moment of silence.
Oh, it got a bag of there.
Thank you. The requirements of NJSA 10:4-9 et sec. The Sunshine Law has been met. A notice of this meeting was sent to the record transcript, published in the Star Ledger on Friday, July 4th, 2025, posted on the city's website, the council's website, and filed in the office of the city clerk. The purpose of this meeting is the calendar year 2025 budget workshop. Members of the public wishing to address the council may do so during this portion of the meeting. Speakers must sign their name on the comment sign-up sheet and approach the microphone when called upon. To allow maximum public involvement, each speaker is permitted one 5-minute period to interact with the council and must provide his or her name and street address prior to beginning any remarks. Visual aids are not permitted. Speakers are reminded to be courteous, mindful of other individuals. Each person has the right to speak on any subject, but is responsible for the abuse of that right. Citizens, the city bears no liability for any comments made by the public and maintains discretion to remove any person engaging in obscene or disruptive conduct. The council will consider all comments and questions and will respond if and when appropriate, which may or may not be during this meeting.
Any citizen? We have a book, nobody signs.
Report.
Nobody signed. Councilwoman Summer Johnson, anything in the book?
Can I somebody here?
The book, I know, but do we want to leave it out?
After we talk.
No.
This was his comment.
Yeah. we don't- Ready? Can I have a motion to close citizen comments?
Motion to close citizens' comments? Second.
Motion to close citizen comments by Councilmember Summers Johnson, second by Councilmember Wooten. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Start the workshop.
Mr. CFO?
Good evening, Council President and members of the Orange City Council. Tonight, we're going to conduct the council's budget workshop. Before we get into the book again, I just wanted to briefly review 2 items that were sent. There was a budget amendment that was sent to the council. Then there also was a memorandum sent by the budget
Can you
consultants.
speak into the mic? I can barely hear you.
Sure. Can you hear me better now?
Yes.
Okay. First item to discuss is the budget amendments that were proposed to the council on July 1st. The amendments were voted down. I just want to briefly touch over what was entailed in the amendments. On the first page, you have general revenues. These are all grants that were being inserted into the budget. Senior services, UEZ parking lot, UEZ meter money, UEZ administrative expenses, UEZ 5-year plan, Essex County Visiting Nurse Program, 2024 Sustainable New Jersey Outreach, Hazardous Discharge Remediation Grant for Metcalf Park, National Opioid Settlements, Summer Food Program, Clean Communities and Recycling Tonnage, comes to the tune of about $1,080,000. All of these are grants, so they're seen on the revenue side as well as the appropriation side. Any questions on the grants?
CFO Clements, we didn't vote on it. I think we either postponed it
It was
or we pulled it.
It was pulled.
Yeah, we didn't vote on it.
Okay.
Okay.
Is that right? Yes.
Councilman?
So do we have the UEZ money?
Yes.
So wasn't that supposed to take care of our part-timers in public works? As a grant?
It's only as good as the length of the project that's been approved. So the UEZ Commission approved the part-time street cleaners for the downtown UEZ area, but that program expired. So those people had to be let go until there's a new program that's approved by the UEZ Commission. And that can't happen until the 5-year plan is approved by the commission.
And when will that be?
Well, you approved it and voted on it, and it's been submitted.
We did.
You approved it and voted on it, it's been submitted.
So I thought the question was that we didn't get them any additional money because we didn't renew it on time.
No, it's project specific, so the determination has to be made that that project will be continued as opposed to other projects.
So a 5-year plan is submitted. UEZ will review the 5-year plan, and then they'll approve those projects. Once they do, they'll send us the money, and then we know that that grant has been approved for that specific project. At this time, these grants are all older UEZ grants that we had that were appropriated in the budget.
And then they have all been depleted?
No, this is money that hasn't been used. So this is money that were inserted into the budget. It was a comment from DCA. They said that we had some unappropriated grant reserves that need to be added to the budget. So this money has been sitting in our coffers that was never appropriated.
But still there's no money there for us to keep the part-timers to do the UEZ cleanup.
If the administration is planning to do that, they can let you know. But as far as what you're asking about, if you're asking about like the renewing and the 5-year plan, that's a separate grant.
But I guess my real question, is there any grant money left in the UEZ budget? In the grant?
In these lines, yes, there are monies that are listed right here.
Okay. But are not enough for us to keep the part-timers?
No, because the project has to be specifically approved. It was only approved for a limited period of time.
So what are we gonna do with the additional grant money that's there?
There are a number of projects that were identified in the 5-year plan. One of which is a public safety project for the downtown. Another is a cleaning project for the downtown. There's a couple things.
Okay.
So I have a question. Will that money be added to whatever new money we get? possibly.
It's separate. They're all separate grants. They all have to be specific to the project. So these, you have mention of a parking lot. This money will be appropriated for
Okay.
parking lot use.
Okay.
Same thing for meter money, et cetera. The 5-year plan is specific to the initial wing resolution that was approved at the last city council meeting where they're, planning the 5-year plan for the city that will be submitted to UEZ to be approved at a later time.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Council President,
Councilwoman Hillwood.
through you to CFO, how much do we currently have for the UEZ funding?
That's right here approved.
Yes.
54. It's about 180,000.
180,000. And I heard the business administrator mention a couple of projects down on Main Street. Could we possibly get a follow-up email, the entire council, in regards to what applications were submitted? Like for
That-
which projects were
that-
proposed?
That should come from Nishawin. They're the ones that are doing the 5-year plan.
Okay, so it's gonna come from there and not from us as a municipality. We don't
get it.
propose anything.
We'll get it from Nishaway and provide it to the council. It was part of the report that was submitted for the 5-year plan.
Okay. At any point in time, will Nishawayne hold a community forum in which the residents or the business owners get to offer ideas?
So as part of the UEZ 5-year plan, they did do some community engagement. That was part of the presentation that was given by, I forget the gentleman's name from Nishawayne. Pardon me? But he discussed the community engagement aspect of the report the night that he gave that report. I wasn't here and I could barely hear it.
Was that at the church?
Yes.
Yes.
I was there.
But Councilwoman, I think he also said that there are gonna be some community meetings coming up.
Yeah, that's what I was leaning towards.
Mm-hmm.
The community meetings coming up. So
I
like
think
if
he may have
residents,
said 5. Did you say
Yeah, I
5?
think he said 5.
Five.
I think he said 5.
Dates and locations.
okay. So we'll get that itinerary or that schedule in advance so we can notify the
Sure.
residents. Okay, thank you.
Moving on. That was section F. Section G of revenues deals with special items. The 2 special items listed are redevelopment fees, redeveloper fees, also known as community benefit agreements. That's going from $0 to $1,500,000. So you're inserting that amount in revenue into the budget. The second line is sale of municipal assets. That's going from 600.
Can we wait 1 minute? Because she's over making copies of what you're reading,
Okay.
and so we can all read it as we go along.
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
All right.
Can we wait a couple of minutes till she comes back?
Sure.
Thank you.
Is that the agreement that we emailed? That's what you said?
No, 3/12/2025. What was on in our package for the last council meeting.
Those 2 of them, right?
That's what
No, I just got the one.
It was a 1.
Just one.
312, like Councilwoman.
Yeah.
Lisa said.
Whether or not there's another one will depend upon this workshop.
Council President, just moving forward, are we can we just set the table as to how we gonna do this tonight? This is the last thing I got, from the budget consultant. This was on July 3rd, okay? I would like to go over this, line by line, unless we got something else that we're gonna be guided by as to what the tax levy's gonna be, what the layoff's gonna be, because I don't think this is true to form anymore, is it?
Well, I think it depends on the discussion tonight. I was gonna set the table and give a little bit, if you would, a little bit of where we're at and where we started. so
Okay,
that
all right, I'll wait for you.
we know what we're doing as soon as he gets through the amendment.
Thank you.
And Councilman Ross, Ms. Scipio's gonna make us copies of all that letter, so we can.
Thank you. We good.
All right. So part 3, special items of general revenue. 2 line items listed here, redevelopment fees, also known as community benefit agreement money. It's going from $0. You're inserting 1.5 million. Then you have sales of municipal assets. It's being decreased from 600,000 to 560,000. These are items of revenue. Any questions here? If not,
Council President,
Councilman Montague,
I thought we already had 600,000 in that account, community benefits.
excuse me, sale of municipal assets is not community benefit money. That's listed as the redeveloper fee. Sales of municipal assets are the 2 ordinances that were approved at the last city council meeting.
Yes.
For 2 properties, one on Webster Street and one on Hickory and Perot.
Okay.
All right, turning that page, finalizing general revenues. You'll see they'll total up the miscellaneous revenues. You'll see the amount to be raised by taxation is listed here. It's going from $67,817,416 to $67,690. Excuse me, $67,690,594. And then the total revenues increasing from $93,428,138 to $95,841,910. Below that begins the appropriations. So you'll see general government, Office of the Business Administrator, salaries and wages. It's going from $284,287 to $294,787. As Councilman Ross mentioned, there was a memo disseminated by the budget consultant on July 3rd. In this memo, they mentioned how all of the unions did not agree to a layoff slash, a deferral slash furlough. That's what I wanted to say. So because they were not agreed to, the money is being added back into the budget for all of the affected line items. So for all of the appropriations here listed, you'll see an increase. So the administrative services, that's admin, is going from 772,000 to 798,000. Grant writing, that one's being increased by $6,000 based off the contract. They increased their fees. That's why it's listed under grant writing other expenses. But everything pertaining to salaries and wages was increased based off of the deferrals and the furloughs not being agreed upon. So the money's being added back into the budget. Any questions on the general appropriations? Intern, the end of page 2. Page 3 is a continuation of adding appropriations back into the budget. You have various accounts on page 3 that are reducing other expense line items. So for the police department, it's being reduced by 25,000, going from 400,000 to 375,000. Department of Fire is being reduced by a little over 100,000. You're taking out the 100,000 that was added into the budget erroneously for RIMS, the dispatch contract, in addition to an additional cut, 25,000. Also, street maintenance for other expenses is being cut by 25,000, going from 477,000 to 452,000. But you'll notice an increase for buildings and grounds, O&E. That's going from 650,000 to 725,000. So that went up by 75,000. Equipment and vehicle maintenance also reduced by 25,000. The remaining accounts are all salary and wages, in which the money is being added back in for the deferral slash furlough that was not agreed upon. Any questions? If not, the last page is the appropriations associated with the grants that we discussed. As you know, all grants must have a receivable and a appropriation that balance. If there are no further questions on the amendments, I'll give Chris, the BA, ground to discuss the memorandum that was disseminated by the budget consultants on July 3rd.
So before I get to the July 3rd budget consultants memo, I wanted to set the stage in terms of where we started and how we've gotten to where we're at right now. When we prepared the budget prior to introduction, we were faced with, as everybody knows, short. Can't hear me?
Okay.
Oh. We were faced with deficits that we had to overcome. We made significant cuts to the budget. Notwithstanding those cuts, we had roughly a $2.9 million deficit. That deficit is structural in nature, meaning that it will repeat every year unless it's addressed. In order to address it in the budget that was introduced, we took two actions. We included a $1.5 million revenue item for a deferral of salaries from all 5 unions and all non-union represented employees. We, at the time we introduced the budget, were in discussions with the unions. Those discussions were going encouragingly, and we felt that we could put it in the budget. We also put in the budget $1.4 million for layoffs of 38 people. Those 38 people included 8 firefighters, 8 police officers, and 22 civilians. Right?
This is 10 police, 11 fire, and 17 civilians.
Okay. The after the budget was introduced, it became clear that we were not going to reach an agreement with the unions on the deferral/furlough. That meant that we had to come up with funds to satisfy the 1.5 that was placed in the budget for the deferral that we didn't get. We went through a process where we adopted a number of financial agreements on an expedited basis, including community benefit agreements or redeveloper fee agreements, generating at least 1.9 million in revenue that would be due in time for the budget to be adopted, with the thought that if we couldn't replace the 1.5 from any other source, we would be able to utilize those funds to replace the 1.5. The amendment that was prepared and presented to you at the last meeting that we withdrew reflected that $1.5 million of community benefit or redevelopment fee money in the budget as a replacement for the deferral. That was the real thrust of the amendment. The night before that hearing on the amendment, the city was notified that we were given a $2,050,000 operating aid grant from the state of New Jersey. It could be used for infrastructure or operating aid. And you had to wait until the very last minute to know whether or not it was going to be included in the budget, which wasn't signed until 11:40 the night before our meeting. We didn't have time to change the amendment. We didn't have time to discuss it with the council, as Councilman Ross pointed out. And so that gave rise to internal discussions about how to use the $2,050,000. That brings you to the July 3rd memo from the budget consultant, in which they recognize the existence of the $2 million grant as a substitute for the $1.5 million deferral / community benefit money. So that's where we're at right now, which is there's a decision to make. And obviously, there are a lot of other questions that need to be answered. We'll answer them. But the real decision needs to be how to use the $2 million, and whether or not it's going to replace what was in the budget amendment that we withdrew, which is the 1.5 million from community benefit or redevelopment fees, and how many layoffs will be resulting from the decisions that we make about how the money's used. I would caution that the deficit is structural. In order to address that deficit, there needs to be a reduction in force. And only through a reduction in force, which is repetitive, does that structural deficit get eaten up. So we can, both the community benefit money, the deferral money, and the legislative grant and aid money are one-shot revenues. And they're there to use this year, but they may not or will not be there to use next year or in subsequent years. So that's setting the table for the discussion, I hope. And any other questions that we may have.
Councilwoman Summers Shine.
Council President, so I guess my confusion
Microphone.
is, I'm sorry. I guess my confusion is, why did the fire department, I guess have someone put out that all of the money that the senator gave was going to the fire department? That's where I was confused. How we get $2 million to save jobs and it's going to one department.
Okay, so we didn't have anything to do with putting that out. That was put out by the state FMBA.
Okay.
The state FMBA was active in lobbying both the legislative delegation and the executive branch over securing or assisting to secure the $2 million legislative grant in aid that Senator Timberlake secured for the city.
Mm-hmm.
After it was secured, but prior to the bill being signed, the FMBA put out that statement. There was some discussion in the back and forth that monies would be used to save firefighter jobs, but they were not the only jobs that would be saved with some of the money. So it wasn't a true statement.
So my question is, are they going to send a retraction? Because that post, when I saw it, I thought that was very dangerous. We have firefighters, getting ready to lose their job, police, and just regular old civilians. And I just was confused because an employee actually posted it. And it's not the first time that this said employee has posted something on social media. And like, if I post something on social media, they're going to believe it because I'm a councilwoman and they're going to think I have some sort of inside information. So I don't know if we legislated about employees posting things, but I think something needs to be done because I think it's very dangerous for someone that works for the city to put out something like that. And then you're saying that it was kind of like misspoken, it wasn't true. Then we need to immediately retract that statement and let them know exactly what it's going to be. Because if not, that thing has grown legs. And I received a lot of calls once it was posted.
Anyone else?
Council President,
Councilman Ross?
through you to the BA or the CFO. So does the administration right now have a new proposed plan as to where we're going, what you want to do? I know it's our ultimate decision as to where we're going and what we're doing, but do you guys have a plan?
We do. What we would propose to the council is that we utilize 1.5 million of the $2 million legislative grant and aid to replace the deferral funds. Some of the remaining funds would be used to supplant the layoffs in police and fire. And then that would leave approximately $350,000 left out of the total amount of money that's available. And we're going to recommend that that be placed into a salary adjustment account.
So,
And then if it's in the salary adjustment account, I'm sorry, Councilman, just let me finish that thought.
mhm.
If it's in the salary adjustment account, it can be used for any salary and wage purpose. It could be used to supplant additional layoffs. It could be used for overtime. It can be used if we negotiate contracts with the unions that are open. There is a wide variety of uses that we can make of a salary adjustment account.
So with that being said, how many layoffs are you looking at?
So if we use the $2 million, we're looking at 3 police and 21 civilians and 0 firefighters.
How many firefighters?
0.
0.
So we're talking about 24 people.
Correct. And I might add that the 3 police may not be necessary based upon impending departures from the police department that would replace those layoffs. So people voluntarily leaving.
Question regarding this grant that I thought about. Is there any restrictions or givebacks regarding this grant? You know, for instance, we're gonna say police. Can this money be, do we have to, this money will be used for 1 year, maybe the second year, then it will, well, this is only for 1 year. Okay, all right, scratch that. So we're not gonna use any, community benefits.
That would be our recommendation because we may need to use some of the community benefit to plug a deficit in 2026 based upon our 5-year projections.
So our deficit going into 2026 will still be 2.9 million, right?
No.
No?
If we adopt the plan that we're laying out, the deficit in 2026 will be roughly $1 million.
And why is that?
Because we went from 38 layoffs to 24 layoffs.
That's if we don't have any new hires.
That's correct.
Okay. And is it a plan of yours or the administration that we will not have any new hires?
We will not have any new hires. There will be replacement hires in essential positions. And I'll define that. We had a technical assistant to the construction code official retire. That's an essential position that has to be replaced, and that will be replaced. We had a tax collector vacancy. Obviously, we have to fill the tax collector position. There are certain other essential positions that need to be filled. So if they're vacated, they would be hired. People would be hired to fill those positions. But other than that, there is no plan to hire anyone, police or fire or civilian.
What about promotions? I know we can't say any salary increases because that's contractual, but what about promotions?
So there is one department where promotions might make sense. That's in the fire department. We've analyzed the overtime savings and the acting officer pay savings by promoting certain captains, certain firefighters to captain. We're still looking at that. We would discuss that internally, but it would only be based on whether or not we could achieve the savings.
Now, we've been talking all along about saving people, which I'm for.
Councilman Ross,
Oh.
could you push the mic back?
Okay, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
We've been talking all along about saving jobs, which I'm in favor of, but we haven't talked about the tax levy, okay? And we got 30,000 homeowners that pay taxes or so, and I'm more concerned about our taxpayers, okay? We've been hit the last couple of years with 6-7% tax levy increases. Where are we right now?
The proposed 2025 municipal tax levy was 2.9%.
Yeah, including in the amendment, it would be 2.9%. The introduced budget was 3.1%.
Is there,
Pardon?
I didn't finish.
Oh,
I said, is there any wiggle room anywhere in this budget where we can get this down to 2.7 to save taxpayers large increase?
that's another $150,000.
100.
I'm sure we can find some wiggle room for that.
See how much hair I lost?
You got more than me. So you could lose some.
Council President. Councilwoman,
I
Councilman Ross, are you done?
He didn't answer the question.
Who's waiting?
We would work with the council to see what we could do.
Thank you.
So,
Before you ask your question,
Yes.
Councilwoman Summers Johnson, can I ask a question
Yes.
to the business administrator? Like, some people might not understand when you say structural deficit. Could you explain what a structural deficit is?
In plain English, we're spending more money than we're taking in on a regular basis. So year in and year out, we are spending more money than we are generating in revenue. And the only way to address that is with permanent cuts to expenditures.
I just have one more question. So regarding that, how are we doing with tax collection? Like, where are we with our tax collection?
So right now, did you have a chance to look up the numbers?
Yes, it's in the packet I provided you. It's around 64% right now, but we haven't collected for the third quarter yet.
Okay.
And I would add that we do an accelerated tax sale at the end of every year. So our tax collection rate should be up around 98%.
Okay. All right, thank you. Councilwoman Summers Johnson.
okay, so my question is, when we had the budget last year, I don't know, I felt like we were told, okay, we're gonna take a big hit this year so that we would be okay. And I'm feeling like this is the worst I've seen it. So we say we're spending more than we're bringing in, but what is the plan to bring in more revenue? Like, is there a plan for revenue?
So in our budget projections over the next 5 years, we have estimated or assumed steady revenues. We have not assumed increases in revenues because this year we lost revenue. So I think it's dangerous from a budgeting standpoint to assume increased revenues. However, many of the pilot agreements that we have entered into have not kicked in. They will kick in over the next 2 years as projects are finished and come online. Those are recurring revenues. And we've recently done a board that Councilman Ross was asking for, which will be finished hopefully within the next few days, and we'll put it up outside. But that shows that there will be an additional $3 to $3.5 million in revenue from pilot agreements over the next 3 years. That's a good thing. But we didn't calculate that into our revenue projections because I don't think it would be wise in view of the fact that we lost revenue this year from other sources. So I'm taking a very conservative approach to our revenue budgeting projections.
Council President,
Councilwoman Eason.
did I hear, what was the tax collection rate?
Right now, it's about 64%.
So prior to our tax collector leaving, we were at 92%, weren't we?
Yes.
98.
98.
98, what happened?
It's just the time of year that you're in. So your collection rate will go up as the year goes by. And as I said, as time goes by in the year. And as I said, we do an accelerated tax sale at the end of the year in which all delinquent taxes go to tax sale and are paid. That's why our tax collection rate is up around 98%. So by the end of the
Will
year,
that
we'll
help
be,
us in this budget?
yes.
Okay. What happened to the auction for the cars? What you
That's
supposed
coming
to-
up.
You were supposed to do one in May, right?
We got delayed.
Okay.
So we have a whole list of cars. I provided the list today to the council president that are going to auction as soon as we set the auction up, which will be sometime probably in August or September.
And how much money do we have in our open space budget? Nobody ever talks about that.
Defer to the CFO. He's got the numbers.
It's about 680,000.
And it,
About 680,000
okay,
that's collected annually.
but we can't use any of that to offset the budget, right?
It's already being utilized for the parks.
Okay.
Council President?
Councilman
Yeah,
Coley?
Mr. Biggie, I was
Microphone.
about the tax collection rate. You said 90,
Councilman Coley?
you said it was 90, our tax collection rate was 98%.
At the end of
Um,
last year, yes.
The end of last year. When did it drop down to 64%?
64% isn't a good window. We're at 64% of total collection for the year.
For the year.
So
Okay.
given where you are in the year, that's okay. Because you have an accelerated tax sale. So once the accelerated tax sale comes up in December, your collection rate will go back to the 98% or thereabouts.
And the help of the accelerated tax sale over the last couple of years, that's how we was able to achieve the 98%.
Correct.
Okay.
Chris,
I do have a,
I'm sorry. I want to ask you a question. You mentioned a $1 million deficit. In this budget, in the introduced budget, we have $3.1 million in one-shot revenues. A structurally imbalanced budget is because you have ongoing expenditures that don't keep up with ongoing revenues. So if you have $3.1 million in the introduced budget, and then you're adding $2 million in additional one-shot revenues, how do you come to a $1 million deficit?
So first of all, in the introduced budget, the deficit was 2.9. That was comprised of or filled with a $1.5 million deferral and a $1.4 million layoff for 6 months. That layoff doubles in the following year, assuming you don't bring those people back, to 2.8 million, which almost wipes out your deficit. So by reducing the number of layoffs, you actually increase the deficit for next year.
you good?
Council President,
You good? Wait a minute, CFO.
Did you
Now,
have a
for next, you
follow-up?
good?
you thinking?
Doesn't, yeah, I'm thinking.
Okay.
Okay.
Councilwoman Hilbert?
Okay, so let's double back a little bit. I believe the numbers were changed with the help of Miss Blair. I believe you said there was 22 civilians, non-union employees that will be let go. Is that correct? Oh,
21.
21? Okay.
It's my fault that it was 23. I'm very sorry that I didn't have the updated list. It's 21 civilians.
Okay, so with the 21, thank you. With the 21 civilians, how many of those individuals have been with the city for a long time, and because they accepted a promotion or a new title, they were considered to be a new hire?
Doesn't really work that way. So there are people who have been with the city a long time who are on the layoff list, but they've been in the same title for most of that time. So the way you do it by civil service guidelines is you go by department, by title, and by seniority. So that allows you to ensure operational efficiency within a department. So for example, if you had 4 record support technicians, 2 in the tax department and 2 in the finance department, and the 2 in the finance department were junior to the 2 in the tax department, but you decided to keep the 2 in the finance department because operationally it made for smoother operations. You could do that. As opposed to the 2 in the tax department who you could let go, or vice versa.
So the civilian employees that we have, because they're not in the union, they did not have the option of furlough.
All the civilian employees who are part of the layoff are in the union.
Okay. So if we as a council agreed to hold on to the CBA, excuse me, the Community Benefits Agreement funding for safekeeping for next year, and accept the generous grant, the federal grant that came in with Senator Timberlake.
State
State
grant.
Huh?
It's a state.
She's a
Let's-
state senator.
Yes, ma'am.
State
State
grant.
grant. Yeah. Yes.
But it was secured. Well, I said federal. You're right.
you-
Thank you. I'm trying to keep up. I'm trying to put it together. I'm trying to put it together because it was a last minute thing, and we are extremely grateful. I want to be very clear. We're extremely grateful, but we want to. I have to piggyback off of what Council Member Simmons Johnson said. We're solving the issue now, but next year we don't know if that $1 million is exactly what you say it will be. So how can we anticipate for a number that we can't predict? And if we're already operating understaffed, then we're technically decreasing the services in the community.
I think
And-
the layoff was done or selected very carefully with the idea that we would be able to maintain services at a sufficient level. Perhaps not the optimal level that would be achieved with 38 additional employees, but there was great care taken to ensure operational efficiency.
Council
I'm
President.
I'm gonna yield and think a little bit more. You can go ahead, CFO.
Okay.
Council President, I just want to
Clement.
go back to Chris. So you mentioned that we'll be saving money with the layoffs this year. That's 24 employees that are full-time and then you have part-time. What is the cost savings for this year's layoffs?
Do you have that number, Bo?
It will be about 1.2 million.
Thank you.
So there are 2 groups of people, right? We have people that were actually laid off, and then we have people that were let go, right? So I think the people that were let go aren't in these numbers at all, right? These are just people who were civil service and who were laid off, right?
There's a handful of people that I believe were let go.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure like specifically on the names, but on what I have, I have the 21 civilians and then 2 employees that were let go, and then employees that were also retiring or separating from the city.
Yeah.
So there were, to piggyback on what Blair said, there are 2 employees that were non-civil service protected who were let go because they were provisional employees.
But we did have part-time employees that were also let go.
And then there are
right?
part-time and temporary employees that have to be let go whenever there's a civil service layoff.
Right.
And there were,
Yeah.
yeah, that's what it was. Here, you do it, boy. I want to say it was 39 employees, but I haven't checked.
So that's my email.
So just to revisit the numbers again, if we're using $5 million in one-shot revenues this year, and there's a $1.2 million cost savings for half the year, next year, over the course of a full year, that'll be 2.4 million. So 5 million minus 2.4 million will be $2.6 million going into 2026.
I'm sorry, 2.6 deficit?
$2.6 million. Just looking at structural balance, ongoing expenditures to keep up with ongoing revenues.
Mhm.
This year, once you add in the $2 million grant, that's $5 million in one-shot revenues.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have
Where are the
two-
other 3
excuse
million
me.
coming from?
that $3 million is $2 million in water utility surplus, 600,000 is about 560,000 for municipal assets, and then a $500,000 capital fund balance. That's $3 million, and then the $2 million for the legislative grant. That's $5 million. You're going to save $1.2 million this year for half a year. So next year, that'll be $2.4 million that you would save. The difference of 5 million and 2.4 million is $2.6 million.
And the estimate that we have based upon the water utility revenues is that we will have surplus to transfer to the operating budget next year as well.
Okay.
And that would
Could-
offset the 2
Could you
million.
speak into the mic? I'm sorry, I did not hear that. VA, I'm sorry.
Sorry, the estimates that we made and the projections that we made is that there will be sufficient funds in the water utility to generate a surplus that would be transferred into the operating budget again next year and several years thereafter.
Council President,
Councilwoman
let
Easton.
me ask a question. I guess I'm a little confused. So in prior years, since I've been on the council, when we did this budget, we did budgeted. So you telling me that the CFO, our business administrator, and our budget consultant hasn't met so that they know the numbers, and we're now in this meeting debating who's right and who's wrong? So the 3 of you have not sat down at a table, went through the budget to figure out where we were going and where we were?
No.
That's what's supposed to happen. So what happened this year that did not happen?
I wasn't privy to the information.
But you guys have to get together because this is a workshop for the council. And in this workshop, you guys.
Layoffs and personnel decisions fall within
But
administration.
that's okay. But what I'm saying is, somewhere in the middle of that, the CFO, the business administrator, and our budget consultant, prior years, that's what they did. They sat down together. They went over the budget to see what was there, what wasn't there. And it had nothing to do with the layoffs. But I'm saying, tonight you guys are talking about numbers and going through numbers that should have already been solidified. And y'all should be giving us a true picture of where the budget is.
We have been giving you a
where
true
we're
picture.
going. But our CFO is questioning that, so I'm
That's okay.
asking why. I'm
Good
asking why. That wasn't,
You have to ask him.
but isn't that what's supposed to happen? You guys get together. That's why we pay you guys to sit in City Hall. So that y'all
Generally
get together,
speaking, that is
share
what happens.
information, go back and forth. And the CFO and the business administrator somehow has to be lockstep in what we're doing financially for the city. And our budget consultant. That's why we pay a budget consultant. So I want to know, have our CFO sat down with the budget consultant to go over the numbers?
Said no. CFO said no.
No, ma'am.
And my next question is why not? That should have happened.
Chris said it was-
I'm sorry. We've been working on this budget long enough for that to have happened prior to tonight. Because tonight we're right back to where we were. The same questions are being asked that should have been answered already. That happened in previous years. And I'm not blaming you, CFO, but I'm saying if you didn't get that information, you should have requested to sit down with the budget consultant.
I did.
But then you should have let us know that that wasn't happening because we pay a budget consultant an awful lot of money to sit down with you. That's part of your job, to meet with them. That's what happened in previous years. So what's the breakdown tonight?
I did. Chris said that the layoff is the prerogative of the administration.
But
and
that's
why he's
fine, but
handling it.
still with the budget, it had nothing to do with the layoff, just the budget numbers.
It has everything to do with the
I know,
layoff.
but
That's the main
the
controversy.
The budget is dependent upon the personnel decisions because of the $2.9 million structural deficit that had to be filled with 2 administrative personnel decisions. And those were the deferral and the layoffs. And those are really the only 2 things that we're talking about of substance, is how to fill those 2 gaps.
Exactly. So where's the breakdown? That
There
I
isn't,
see if
as
they
far
don't
as
know
I'm
that.
concerned.
Council President,
Councilwoman Hilbert.
I'm sorry, Councilwoman Easton, are you done with your question? I didn't want to cut you off. You done with your question?
I'm done with mine.
Okay. I'm trying. I'm trying. This is a professional setting, and I know a lot of you have been doing this for a while. And I would just say this before I ask my question. There have been times where some of us have proposed things that would help generate revenue for this city. The council is not responsible for personnel. We do not hire people. That's an administrative thing. So when you're hiring, you know how much you're giving the salary and you know what is required in the budget. And then there's forecasts done. And we have a whole bunch of maybes right now. This is not a real forecast when you're talking about what could possibly come from the water as a surplus to help us in the upcoming year. And so my thing is just going back to what some of us as a council have tried to propose. I've spoken to the administration and yourself, B.A. Hartwike, about being able to get an occupancy tax if we legislate Airbnb. I know Councilwoman Summers Johnson and Council President Wooten have been pushing for cannabis. These are different types of revenues that could have helped prevent some of this, because I don't have no faith in what I'm hearing right now, that not only are we letting go of people this year, but we will possibly have to do it again next year. And so I say that in a way, what is the plan? Because I'm still confused as to what our plan is. The council, I feel like we are hit with a conundrum. It's like a 50-50. How are we going to make this decision with little to no casualties?
With little to no what?
Casualties.
I still can't hear you.
Casualties. We use the grant, the state grant. We hold on to the CBA, or we use the CBA. And what else would the state grant really be used for? Or could we use both? But I remember a conversation that we had in regards to the structural deficit. If we paid out, I was told that if we paid out our deficit, our debt completely, that it will actually come back higher next year to bite us. So what is the proposal here, and what are the numbers that we're working with? Because I'm hearing conflicting numbers. I know that's a lot, but I got a lot going on in my brain, so I'm trying to communicate it the best way I can.
No, I'm going to go back to the numbers are relatively simple. The numbers are, you have a choice between using a $2,050,000 grant and substituting that for the deferral money that was in the introduced budget, using the additional funds to avoid layoffs of certain personnel, with some funds remaining that would go into the salary adjustment account, or you could use them to reduce additional personnel layoffs. the more money you use, you're in this conundrum. And that is that $2 million was more money than the deferral. So that additional money has been tagged to lower public safety layoffs. Once those public safety layoffs are lowered, then your potential structural deficit for the following year, save attrition, goes up. If you're not laying off 38 people, you're laying off 22, then you get the savings from 22 in the following year. You don't get the savings from 38.
Okay. I'm good for now.
You all right?
Yeah.
Can I just say one more thing, Council President?
CFO.
To the council, I understand you don't want to lay people off. I understand it's a hard decision. So that's an appropriation that's going up. But you want taxes to go down. So that's a revenue that's going down. These wants are working in different directions. So I understand the council, putting it on the administration or asking us questions. But the council has to be very clear about, do you want to make these cuts that are hard now? Or do you want to wait and make hard decisions later? But those two wants aren't working in the same direction. An
Council-
increase
I'm sorry.
in taxes is an increase in revenue, which helps support the increase in appropriations. A decrease in staff is a decrease in appropriations, which helps you with a decrease in revenue.
Council President.
Councilwoman Summers Johnson.
But my issue with that is I feel like that's the same conversation we had last year. I feel like I was sitting, this is like, I don't know. I feel like
Groundhog's Day.
Yeah, Groundhog Day. Like I have one living in my backyard now. But anyway, I just feel I do. Greg the
Mr. Groundhog.
Yeah, Mr. Groundhog. But it's like I understand we don't want to lay off, but I feel like we're underwater and we're never gonna get out of this. It's like sinking sand. It's like I'm not hearing any good news. It's not getting better. Like I don't want fire, police, or civilians, but my thing is I know that we have to do it, but when does it stop? It seems like it's gonna be like this every year. I don't see how we're getting out of this.
So you get out of it through attrition. And you lay off X number of people, or you reduce the workforce by X number of people. You continue to utilize some of your community benefit money over the next 2 years as other people leave the employ and they are not replaced, to get back up to that 38 or 40 number that we started out with.
So basically, we're freezing hiring until we get out of this mess.
You have to,
Okay.
except for
So
essential
I don't
positions.
want to see any new employees. Like, I'm so serious because I don't know, it seems like Orange is, I don't know, we're just getting hit. And it's not, I'm not, like you look at Newark, they just hired what, $3 million. They hired youth workers. It's just like, I want that good type of news to come to Orange as well. And we're having to make deals with the Board of Education to hire people, and they have different requirements than what the city has. It's a lot. I mean, I feel like we're trying, but those meetings that Councilwoman Easton spoke about, like, I think those things are important. Just like today, we didn't cancel because we really didn't have a chance to kind of have these conversations. They're not easy conversations, but we can't have these conversations if we don't hold a meeting like this. But my brain is still kind of like lost. I want to make the best decision. I'm listening to the numbers. I'm hoping that I make the best decision this year so that next year, I mean, this is being taped. I swear I'm going to play it back because because then we have to face residents who swear we're lying and we're only telling them what we were told. So I just want to be as honest. If we're not hiring anyone and we have to make these layoffs, I mean, my prayer, I know Councilman Wooten wants to try to get along with Councilman Montague to get the people who are being laid off into employment, because the last thing we want is to have our workers now homeless, or children have to drop out of college because of a budget issue. So I think it's like an onion. We just keep peeling. I don't know.
And Councilwoman
Councilwoman Eason.
And I was once we get through this budget, I've been pulling the salary classifications for the different cities around. We gotta look at these salaries when we're bringing in people at these top salaries that we cannot afford. So I've been trying to do some comparisons to what the other cities are paying versus what we are paying. And some of ours are out of whack. So we need to also look at that. Maybe we need to look at our salary guide and reduce some of the top heavy numbers and get those salaries back in sync. Because some people in this city are making just too much money for a town that's 2.2 square miles. So we need to also take that into consideration.
And then we also need to look at our fees too. I know we started to look at our fees because where in America can you get a swim badge for like $25? I know probably back in 2006, we lived in West Orange and I could swear it was like $375 for our house for a family. And then we moved to Orange and it's like $25. So we need to look at our fees too. And that's not anything against any department. We just need to have someone do that as well.
Council President,
CFO now.
we did a review and we increased all of our permits and fees that we could in 2023, and it's reflected in the 2024 budget. That was an entire year that we had increased revenue, but it's not enough ongoing revenues to keep up with the ongoing expenditures. The salary and wages far outweigh the increases from permits and fees.
But
That's why we're using $5 million of one-shot revenues in this budget.
Council President, we also have a lot of revenue in the court system that we are not collecting also. That's some money we need to go after and figure out how much of that is delinquent and how much of that we can collect.
In a warrant squad.
I keep saying that. I've been saying that for years. We need a warrant squad.
Council President,
Councilwoman Hilbert.
through you to the business administrator, going back to the salary grades. I believe I spoke with the business administrator and he's doing that. He's doing the comparison with the equal pay. I think we spoke about that because I was questioning as to why one employee received like over $8,000 in a salary increase. And I said, why is this? Why is it justified? And it's because in other cities who have more revenue, they can afford to pay their people that price, that salary, those wages. But here in Orange, if we adhere to the laws, the equal pay, especially for minorities, we're going to get hit. We're going to get hit because we haven't figured out how to balance it. We need more revenue. And I feel like that's just what we have to just keep driving. We're going to end up making a hard decision today. But moving forward, I hope that each and every one of us will sit down and really talk about other ways that we could generate revenue, because the administration can't do it themselves.
Anyone else?
I have one more question. Transparency on the bottom line. So in a number of years, we've adopted a budget where at the point we adopted the budget, there weren't sufficient funds in salaries and wages for police overtime, for example. So at this point in the year, through June 27th payroll, we have $750,000 in police overtime expenditures, but we are only budgeting $700,000 in police overtime. So my question is, do you intend to increase that line item so you don't have to do an emergency at the end of the year so that you don't have an over expenditure?
So CFO Clements, I mean, when you look at overtime going back 10, 15 years, it was $5-6 million if you go back. And then it's is decreased, although it's still a lot, right? So I don't know if 700,000 is enough. I'm not saying that it is, but I don't know if it's enough. If you look back at the police department, like maybe 10 or 15 years when it was 5 million for overtime, I guess you can look at the trends or things that were going on during that period and look at, you know, as we come forward, the trends that are going on now. But I don't know if 700,000 is it, because for the past 4 or 5 years, if you look at the money for police overtime, it's been a constant $1 million.
Council President,
It's been a constant that. So I'm not saying that's what we're gonna do. I'm just saying like that's what we have to think about, right? And it's a lot of money. But do we even actually know what that curtails, right? Like how is that accumulated? And what was going on? Well, I can tell you what was going on 10 years ago. And now it's big change. Because we moved here in 2007, and when we moved here, we saw bathtubs going down Oakwood Avenue, and we heard constant saws at like 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning, and we thought people were doing construction, but it was actually people stealing pipes. So we know what has transpired, right? But if we go back and look at what we were paying or what was paid, because I think that was prior to, with the exception of Councilwoman Easton, any of us being on the council. I just think $700,000 might not be it. I don't know where that sweet spot is. I'm not sure
But Council,
because we don't know what the different categories are where the overtime is being generated, right? Like we know during Superstorm Sandy, did anyone even look back to see what the overtime was then, right? We knew it was crazy. So we know that the police officers go to court. Are they paid overtime when they go to court? I don't know. Are they paid overtime when they do something with the prosecutor's office? I don't know. Are they paid overtime? Like we're down some dispatchers. So are they paid overtime when they sit in as a dispatcher? I don't know. And that's some things we need to look at.
And I think we would need one of the chief to explain it because if let me just give an example. So holiday weekend, all the supervisors call out sick. The officers call out. So they could either leave the city unprotected and no overtime, or they had to call in additional officers to fill those slots. And somebody made the suggestion that, oh, they're just doing that so their friends can get overtime. But that's not true. Because we know they all want to be home with their families on holidays and weekends, even though the job demands sometimes that they have to work. But if they decide to stay home, then that means they got to call in somebody to fill that position. They got to call in a supervisor. So they have somebody that look at what's happening in the city. They need a supervisor at the site to determine how they handle the situation. So all of that feeds into their overtime. Not that they want to work it, but sometimes they just have to just to cover the city.
well, Council President, it all comes down to oversight. We need somebody watching the numbers.
Yep.
We had, you have to, overtime should be approved. Somebody
I think
said,
it is nearby.
I think it's
Yeah.
Our business administrator. It's approved by our business administrator.
it's difficult right now,
Yep.
but there's no oversight right now. And we're trying to get to that point where I realize, I think we spoke about this. The police have to review all of those all the cameras, correct?
Yep.
Every week, all the videos.
Every
talking about-
time there's a request.
Body
Every time.
cameras,
Yeah,
right?
body cameras, yeah. Sometimes that's overtime. We using police as dispatchers.
Correct.
That's overtime. Instead of having a real dispatcher,
Because we have difficulty keeping the dispatchers.
right? So we had to do it. We have to advertise.
We advertise constantly. It's
I'll
difficult to
help you
find
with
them.
Council President?
We have to look at what we're paying dispatchers because other towns in the area are paying more and they're keeping their dispatchers and we're not.
Councilwoman Hilbert.
Did we not receive a grant from Senator Cory Booker last year that was supposed to be used towards the dispatch?
No, it's a capital grant for a communications center, not for dispatchers.
A communication center with the police department,
Correct.
but it didn't.
Police and fire. But it's a physical facility, not to be used for dispatcher
Was it
pay
in
or
the parade?
overtime.
Was it in the parade? Remember it was in the parade? Didn't we take a tour? It was in the Veterans Parade. It's gray.
You talking about the
Yeah.
command post? Oh, that big thing.
Is it?
Oh, so it was used for the command, that
No.
giant
That-
truck?
not-
No,
What's
the
that?
Cory Booker grant is for a communications center, which is slated to be on the second floor of the existing police building.
Wanna be in the police
It's a communications emergency operations.
So what's that truck called?
That's a command center.
Oh, see.
And that
He
was
loves his command
that-
center, so
that we got for
he's
free.
not giving it up.
No.
But okay, so the funding was to build it and to outfit it, but it wasn't to pay towards staffing.
No, correct.
And off the top of your head, do you know what the chief or the director were looking into in numbers? How many staffers, how many dispatchers?
We need an additional 3 dispatchers and we've been advertising for weeks.
Oh.
We hired a dispatcher. They lasted 2 weeks.
Would that be, because we just said we were going to do a hiring freeze. So would that be something that falls underneath the freeze, or would you consider that to be essential?
It's an essential position.
Okay.
Someone that's laid off can't go into that position?
Yes, they could with civil service approval.
I was thinking the same thing.
So should we search from within first?
Yeah.
I was
think we
thinking the
should do
same
that.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Instead of laying off, just move to another department and get trained up. Cross-train.
It's
Is
not
that
that
a-
simple.
Oh,
Why? That's what I'm trying to say. We're asking.
Civil
what-
service has specific rules and guidelines with respect to who can be hired to fill a position.
Oh, okay.
Right? So there may be somebody in this group of people that you want and who's qualified to fill a dispatcher position, but because of seniority and bumping rules, they may not be the people who get to be offered the job.
Okay. So now what are we gonna do here today? What is gonna be accomplished in this meeting?
My hope is that we can arrive at a budget amendment that, or an agreement on a budget amendment that would utilize the $2,050,000 in the manner that I've outlined.
Do we have a resolutions to vote on?
Now,
No.
we would, actually, the budget consultant has, I think, has one.
We have a resolution?
Let's walk on this.
Sorry, they told me they couldn't hear me before. I do have a resolution that I could pass out that outlines exactly what Chris was just referring to, inserting the $2 million into the budget, removing the furloughs, the 21 civilian employees being riffed. We do have that prepared, and I can pass it out if you guys want to take a look at it.
You have it printed already?
I know that's a lot to take in.
You have it printed?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, she's prepared.
Yeah.
Would y'all like to take a 10-minute recess to look at this information that's being passed out now?
Yes.
Yeah, could I just add before you do that?
Mhm.
The amendment that's being put before you does not require an appropriation cap waiver. So it doesn't have to go before the local finance board.
Why? Because we're under the 3%.
Yes.
And we gotta work towards 2.7, right?
So we're gonna take a 10-minute recess.
You want a 10-minute recess?
Want,
Second,
so we can,
So a
We-
motion to take
and
a
I think
10-minute.
Trish is gonna make copies.
The budget consultant.
Okay.
I don't know.
Do y'all want a 10-minute recess to look at this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, no? Okay.
So wait. The motion to take a 10-minute recess was made by Councilmember Summers Johnson,
Yes.
second by
Monty.
Montague.
Councilmember Montague the third. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It's 8:26. Can I get a motion to reconvene?
Motion to reconvene.
Second, Coley.
Motion by Councilmember Ross, second by Councilmember Coley. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We're now back in session at 8:37.
Been here a long time.
Are we finished with the budget workshop?
Council President,
Councilwoman Easton.
doesn't this amendment have to have a resolution number?
Does.
Where is it?
Where is it?
It's 323-2025 WL. It's not on that because we didn't actually get the resolution, but that would
So
be
what
the
is
next.
the number?
323-2025 WL.
Okay. And on what part of the agenda?
Wait a
we
minute, which
put
one is it? This.
New business
It
walk
goes on here under new business. It's gonna be the second walk-on.
So we have two walk-ons, right?
Correct.
Yes.
Two? Oh, this budget.
Okay.
Got it.
We done with the budget hearing?
We're done with the workshop, right? We just took a motion to convene and now we're back in session, so. Are
We
we?
have a motion that we reconvene.
We did that already.
We did
Second.
that.
We did that. Are we finished with the workshop? That's the
Yes,
question.
I have one question.
Councilman Montague.
Chris, as far as the Board of Education taking over our summer program, whose insurance, who's liable?
So under the agreement that we approved, we gave them a certificate of insurance.
Well,
So
we are,
we're insuring the program.
it's self-insured.
Yes. So we didn't have to add any additional money. All we did was notify the insurance company that we were entering into the contract. We would have had the liability anyway if we had run the programs ourselves. So it was a no cost differential.
Okay. Thank you.
Councilwoman Hilbert? You got a question? Okay, you look like.
Oh, I was thinking, sorry. No, I have no question.
Okay.
But, Council President,
Councilman Rose?
just to you, Mr. VA, when you contract out with somebody, a vendor or anybody, the Board of Ed, they should be giving us a hold harmless and they should be ensuring, what's going on, not us, okay? Because we're paying them.
Yeah, under ordinary circumstances, we do that constantly. These were not ordinary circumstances. So we planned the program, we screened all the employees. All of the programming was done by us in advance. Really, all we were doing is handing over the administration of the program to them. And that's with two of our administrators actually overseeing the day-to-day. So it's different than an ordinary negotiation that we typically enter into. And in those circumstances, we do get a hold harmless and a certificate of insurance.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else?
Citizen comments?
We already
No, we
that.
did that. New business, walk-on ordinance / resolutions and other pending business. Resolution 322-2025 WO. A resolution outlining the municipal council's management of employees under its jurisdiction and authorizing the council president to administer limited management to employees under its jurisdiction on its behalf. Is there a motion?
Motion, Summers Johnson.
Second, Montague.
Motion by Council Member Summers Johnson, second by Council Member Montague the third on the motion.
On the motion?
Councilwoman Hilbert.
Yes, can you briefly explain this? Because it's a walk-on, so I'm just now seeing it. This is just in regards to council president authority over the clerk's office?
Yes, but it's
It's the same
It's the same
resolution that
resolution.
was, sorry, Council.
okay. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
The same resolution that was passed about a month ago.
I didn't hear it one more
It's the
time.
same resolution that the governing body had passed about a month ago.
A month ago?
It moved the date up from July 1st, 2025, when it expired,
Mm.
to July 1st, 2026. That's all. Yeah, it corresponded with the reorganization meeting.
Mhm.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. So the second walk-on is.
No, we have to vote on it. Yeah.
Okay, thought I would just read them both and, okay, anyway. Can I get a motion, for 322-2025 WO? Oh, motion to walk it on, roll call.
So, excuse me, Council President, just real quick. The council has jurisdiction over who in the clerk's office? Just for my clarity,
The clerk and the deputy clerk.
just those two people.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else?
Yes.
Supposed to have one secretary.
Say that again.
Councilwoman Eason or Hilbert?
Councilwoman Easton took it right out my mouth. It was supposed to be, I was under the impression it was also supposed to include another personnel, another secretary
Who's
or
what
assistant.
secretary?
It's just the clerk and the deputy clerk. That's who we are over as
So,
a council.
so the other two employees were underneath the business administrator and the administration.
Right.
Okay.
All right.
Roll call. I'll look it up tomorrow.
Roll call. Councilmember Coley,
Yes.
Councilmember Eason,
Yes.
Councilmember Hilbert,
Yes.
Councilmember Montague the third,
Yes.
Councilmember Ross.
Yes.
Councilmember Summers Johnson,
Yes.
and Council President Wooten.
Yes.
This item is now on the agenda. Can I get a motion to adopt 322-2025?
Motion to adopt, to adopt 322-2025.
Second, Montague.
Motion to adopt by Councilmember Summers Johnson, second by Councilmember Montague the third. On the motion, seeing none, roll call. Councilmember Coley,
Yes.
Councilmember Eason,
Yes.
Councilmember Hilbert,
Yes.
Councilmember Montague the third,
Yes.
Councilmember Ross,
Yes.
Councilmember Summers Johnson,
Yes.
and Council President Wooten.
Yes.
323-2025 walk-on, a resolution to amend the City of Orange Township calendar year 2025 municipal budget. Can I get a motion to walk 323 on?
Motion to walk what is it, 23?
323-2025 WO.
To walk it on. Thank you.
Second.
Motion to walk it on by Councilmember Montague the third, second by Councilmember Eason on the motion. Seeing none, roll call. Councilmember Coley,
Yes.
Councilmember Eason,
Yes.
Councilmember Hilbert,
Yes.
Councilmember Montague the third,
Yes.
Councilmember Ross,
Yes.
Councilmember Summers Johnson,
Yes.
and Council President Wooten.
Yes.
We will just do that. Motion to adopt 323-2025. Uh-huh.
Budget amendment, it needs to be read in full into the record since it wasn't advertised.
Oh.
Buddy.
I'm sorry.
A resolution to amend the City of Orange Township's calendar year 2025 municipal budget amendment for the calendar year 2025, whereas the local municipal budget for the calendar year 2025 was introduced on April 15th, 2025, and whereas the public hearing on said budget was held on May 20th, 2025 as advertised, and whereas the City of Orange Township desires to amend said budget, now therefore be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Orange Township that the attached amendments to the introduced budget of the calendar year 2025 be made. Be it further resolved that 2 certified copies of this resolution be filed forthwith in the office of the Director of the Division of Local Government Services for certification of the calendar year 2025 local municipal budget so amended. Current fund. General revenues, miscellaneous revenues, Section F, special items of general revenue anticipated with prior written consent of Director of Local Government Services, public and private revenues offset with appropriations. Senior services from 0 to 3,666. UEZ parking lot from 0 to 140. UEZ meter money from 0 to 10,754. UEZ administrative expenses from 0 to 44,110. UEZ 5-year plan from 0 to 124,450. Essex County Visiting Nurse Program from 0 to $35,821. 2024 Sustainable New Jersey Outreach from 0 to $5,000. Hazardous Discharge Remediation for Metcalf from 0 to $390,734. National Opioid Settlement from 0 to $200,000. Summer Food from 0 to $139,119. Clean Communities from 0 to $66,294. Recycling Tonnage from 0 to $60,506. Legislative Grant Operating Aid from 0 to $2,050,000. Total for Section F special items of general revenue anticipated with prior written consent of Director of Local Government Services, public and private revenues offset with appropriations. Total from $3,589,567 to $6,720,161. Section 3, Miscellaneous Revenues, Section G, special items of general revenue anticipated with prior written consent of the Director of Local Government Services. Other special items, sale of municipal assets from $600,000 to $560,000. Total for Section G, special items of general revenue anticipated with prior written consent of the Director of Local Government Services. Other special items from $5,605,900 to $5,565,900. General revenues continued. Total miscellaneous revenues from $21,468,322 to $24,558,916. 5. Subtotal general revenues from $25,610,722 to $28,701,316. 6. Amount to be raised by taxes for support of municipal budget. A. Local tax for municipal purposes, including reserve for uncollected taxes, from $67,017,073 to $66,890,251. Total amount to be raised by taxes for support of municipal budget, from $67,817,416 to $67,690,594. 7. Total general revenues $93,428,138 to $96,391,910. General appropriations. A. Operations within caps. General government, Office of the Business Administrator, salaries and wages from $284,287 to $294,787. Office of Administrative Services, salaries and wages from $772,104 to $798,604. Grant writing, other expenses from $55,200 to $61,200. Mayor's office, salaries and wages from $234,449 to $240,749. City clerk, salaries and wages from $313,706 to $361,306. Department of Finance, accounting, salaries and wages from $315,713 to $404,913. Tax collection, salaries and wages from $300,048 to $280,898. Tax assessor, salaries and wages from $220,226 to $230,926. Department of Law, salaries and wages from $514,685 to $538,585. Department of Law, other expenses from $430,200 to $405,200. Planning Division, salaries and wages from $366,048 to $339,448. Municipal Alcohol Beverage Control Board, other expenses from $20,640 to $18,490. Department of Community Service salaries and wages from $1,417,302 to $1,389,902. Department of Community Service Recreation, salaries and wages from $569,600 to $99,600. Recreation other expenses from $217,114 to $687,114. Municipal Court salaries and wages from $1,043,835 to $1,041,035. Public Defender salaries and wages from $68,960 to $72,260. General appropriations continued. Public Safety, Department of Police, Administrative Patrol Division, salaries and wages from $17,623,122 to $17,317,872. Administrative Patrol Division, other expenses from $400,340 to $375,340. Department of Fire, salaries and wages from $9,357,700 to $9,085,400. Department of Fire other expenses from $469,315 to $345,343. Department of Public Works, Director's Office, salaries and wages from $442,382 to $486,382. Street maintenance, salaries and wages from $1,310,649 to $1,293,849. Street maintenance other expenses from $477,650 to $452,650. Buildings and grounds, salaries and wages from $224,737 to $231,037. Buildings and grounds other expenses from $650,000 to $725,000. Equipment and vehicle maintenance other expenses from $818,585 to $793,585. State Uniform Construction Code, construction official, salaries and wages, from $319,920 to $329,320. Inspections and licensing, salaries and wages, from $457,192 to $478,092. Unclassified salary adjustment account, from $100,000 to $450,000. Total operations within caps, $64,693,302 to $64,526,480. Total operations including contingent within caps, from $64,703,302 to $64,536,480. Detail salary and wages, from $37,166,666 to $36,674,966. Detail for other expenses, from $27,536,636 to $27,861,514. H-1. Total general appropriations for municipal purposes within caps, from $76,550,577 to $76,383,755. General appropriations continue. Operations excluded from caps. Public and private programs offset by revenues. Senior services, from $0 to $3,666. UEZ parking lot, from 0 to 140. UEZ meter money, from 0 to 44,110. UEZ administrative expenses, from 0. Excuse me, I misread.
Yeah, you skipped the 10,000.
Okay, UEZ meter money, from 0 to $10,754. UEZ administrative expenses, from 0 to $44,110. UEZ 5-year plan, from 0 to $124,450. Essex County Visiting Nurse Program, from 0 to $35,821. 2024 Sustainable New Jersey Outreach, from 0 to $5,000. Hazardous Discharge Remediation, Metcalf Park, from 0 to $390,734. National Opioid Settlement, from 0 to $200,000. Summer Food, from 0 to $139,119. Clean Communities, from 0 to $66,294. Recycling Tonnage, from 0 to $60,506. Legislative Grant, Police Salaries and Wages, from 0 to $900,000. Legislative Grant, Fire Salaries and Wages, from 0 to $1 million. Legislative Grant, Employee Group Health, from 0 to $150,000. Total public and private programs offset by revenues, from $3,589,567 to $6,720,161. Total operations excluded from caps, from $5,870,877 to $9,001,471. Detail salaries and wages, from $48,717 to $2,098,717. Detail other expenses, from $5,822,160 to $6,902,754. H2 total general appropriations for municipal purposes excluded from caps, from $14,627,561 to $17,758,155. O. Total general appropriations excluded from caps, from $14,627,561 to $17,758,155. L. Subtotal of general appropriations, from $91,178,138 to $94,141,910. 9. Total general appropriations from $93,428,138 to $96,391,910. Be it further resolved that these amendments, in accordance with the provisions of NJSA 40A 4-9, be published in the transcript, which is an official newspaper of the city, on July 17th, and that said publication contain notice that the hearing on the attached amendments will be held on August 6th, 2025 at City Hall, 29 North Day Street, City of Orange Township, New Jersey, in the council chambers at 6 p.m. Be it further resolved that pursuant to NJSA 40A:4-9, these amendments shall not be effective until after the public hearing thereon. Thank you.
Is there a motion to adopt 323-2025 WL?
Motion Coley.
Second, Summers Johnson.
Motion by Councilmember Coley, second by Councilmember Summers Johnson. On the motion,
On the motion,
Councilman Ross.
what is the next step after this is voted upon tonight?
A public hearing. After the public hearing, there could be a resolution to adopt the budget.
All on the same night?
Yes.
Hearing at 6, meeting at 7.
So we don't anticipate any more amendments or any other revenue, anything else coming in at this point?
Not at this point, no.
Thank you.
anyone else on the motion? Seeing none, roll call. Councilmember Coley,
Yes.
Councilmember Eason,
Yes.
Councilmember Hilbert,
Yes.
Councilmember Montague III,
Yes.
Councilmember Ross,
Yes.
Councilmember Summers Johnson,
Yes.
Council President Wooten.
Yes.
There a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn, Summers Johnson.
Second.
Motion to adjourn by Councilmember Summers Johnson, second by Councilmember Eason. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The meeting is adjourned at 9:03.